Hello, welcome back to The Average, or welcome to The Average if you're new here. I'm Steph, I'm the Average Artist. Today we're talking colour theory. Of course, this is a stupid thing for me to say. I love jelly gouache. I obviously reviewed a lot of them. I have done a lot of jelly gouache. I'm obsessed with it. And yes, I have a lot of it because guess what, guys? I have a YouTube channel. And that's it. That's all I will hear on the subject. To be an artist, you don't necessarily need all this hoard of paint. You only need 3 colours and maybe a black and white. But let's talk about it. If you're a beginner or if you haven't quite got a grasp on colour theory yet, then it's always a good idea to scale back all the colours that you have in your repertoire and start from the basics: red, yellow and blue. And in this video you will see why this is important to get a grip on before you dive in and just have all these colours, any colour in the world that you want, just to hand, because not all of them will be quite cohesive. And to learn about colour theory, you will in yourself build confidence and know how to apply colour and what works for you. So in Japan I bought this set of 5 colours. Okay, well, they're just 3 colours. They are red, blue and yellow, the primary colours, and of course a black and white because you cannot mix those. But we're going to focus on the 3 colours today. How to improve your colour theory. First off, we're going to talk about how to do a colour wheel. This is very beginner friendly, but also if you haven't done a colour wheel in a long time, like say you did it when you were a student, aka me, and you haven't done it in a long time, it's also worth revisiting. So as we know, there are 3 primary colours: red, blue and yellow, and all these colours in theory can mix to create any colour in the universe. You want to draw a circle and divide it by 12 roughly, and then you can mark those segments out by drawing around the circle size for each segment. Use your ruler and go along the outside of the circle and just measure out. For instance, here I think it was roughly 2 centimeters per segment. Then you want to do 3 segments opposite each other like this: red, yellow and blue. I think I did it in the wrong section, the yellow first of all, so just ignore that orangey hue one. Then you want to mix half blue, half yellow, and you're going to get this green that is exactly a mixture of, well, not exactly, it's a rough science to be fair. It's going to be a mixture of these 2 colours. Then you're going to take that colour and mix a little bit more yellow in it, and then you've got the in-between of those 2 colours, and so on. And what this helps with is just basic understanding of how to mix colours to get the colours that you want. And you're gonna say, yeah, but if I have like gouache, jelly gouache with loads of different colours, then I have all those colours there available to me instantly. Yes, that's very nice, that can be very handy, but if you practice using this colour wheel and using this limited colour palette, I promise you that your ability to see colours and see contrasting colours and know what helps in finding a pleasing and dramatic colour combination will be highly multiplied by just practicing using these color wheels. It helps to train your eye for hue accuracy, it improves your color mixing skills, it builds muscle memory, repeating the color wheel, mixing colors, so it just becomes instinctive over a while. You'll also naturally know where colors sit opposite each other, complementary on the color wheel, and it will just sharpen those skills, and it will just help you to become more confident when using color. So I highly recommend, maybe even if you just have the jelly gouache, maybe you have that sitting around, just get a red, yellow and blue colors out of there and just try mixing your own colors, because it's totally worth investigating, exploring, and you will learn so much, I promise you. There's also something to be said that buying just 3 tubes of colour is an investment, a cheaper investment, maybe. I think that jelly gouache is quite cheap because I think it's probably about £20 for a pack of it, and then I know that this Holbein set was £20, but you could also just buy, if you were just a beginner and you're just starting out, you could also buy like 3 tubes of the cheapest plus a black and white, because you also need black and white. But to make any colour, you need red, blue, and yellow. So I'm just gonna paint this picture now of my cat Oreo sitting at a windowsill, looking out at the garden, and I think it looks very harmonious. And I used a lot of greens but then purple shadows, and I really like how the colors work together. I used a lot of purple on him as an underpainting, and I used a little bit of purple shadow. And from the photo that I was referencing, I realized that on his fur, because the outside is so bright and orangey hue, that he has a bit of like warmer shadow to him. And it was fun mixing those different shadows, because it's difficult to get shadows on a black and white cat and make it look realistic without just having like a solid black and white thing that would look flat. I also wanted to highlight all these trees and bushes, but obviously it's difficult to paint. It's difficult to paint this kind of leafage, and I don't know if that's the word, but you know what I mean, roughage, I don't know, and make it look realistic. So what you've got to do is kind of not focus so heavily on the details, because this garden landscape is a bit further back than Oreo. The details wouldn't be so obvious to our minds, they would just be sort of shapes. So here I'm focusing on different shapes and then going in with shadows on top, like shadow shapes that I see within the bushes, and then on top of that doing highlights, and then on top of that adding more greenery. So I just keep going in and layering over and over again, and that's the great thing about gouache, is that it is very, very forgiving. If I was using watercolor here, it would probably be way more difficult to get this impression across. You can also do great highlights like with this very opaque white, because gouache works in such a way that you can water it down so it looks like watercolor, but you can also use it in such an opaque way that it just covers up mistakes, and it's so nice to use. And also, if you're like me, and it's not laziness per se, but it's just, you know, I forget about paintbrushes have paint on them, I forget paint palettes have paint on it, and you should clean that straight away, otherwise you're going to ruin stuff. With gouache, it's a little bit more understanding of people like me, people with possible ADHD, and you can just wash your brushes away later on and it will re-wet and reactivate, which is great, because I did this painting over 2 days and I didn't want to mix all these paints again. So there you go, I had them there ready. They do get a little tiny little bit crusty, but you know, they still work. And here I am just doing all the final details, and I just want to meet you guys at the end. I will leave you to the end of this painting. So there it is, that is the final painting. I hope that you guys, I've encouraged you to revisit the colour wheel or to do a colour wheel if you never have before. It is great practice and I think it will really bolster up your talent. Anyway, thanks for watching, see you later, bye!